Welcome to part 19 in this series of videos on creating a simple purchase order system using Blazor and C#. In this video I'm going to look at smoothing out a few wrinkles and fixing a few anomalies in the system that have become apparent to me. So the ones that we're going to be tackling in this video is that on the purchase orders we can't delete an order, so we want to be able to implement that. Annoyingly, we can currently save an order with no supplier, so we need to put a stop to that situation. And we can also currently save an order with no order lines, and rather than prevent this, I'm going to ask the user for confirmation that they do want to save an order without any order lines. On the purchase order lines themselves, I want to modify the product drop-down list to show the product code and description. This was an idea that was left in the comments section from a previous video, and it seems entirely sensible that we should do this. I'm also not very happy with the behavior of number data entry, particularly on the purchase order line. It seems to be very awkward and potentially misleading, so I want to tackle that. And lastly, the position and sequence of buttons is a little bit inconsistent, and I'm sure there's a better way than the way I'm doing this at the moment. So let's have a look at the system and put some of these things right. I'm going to start with what is probably the easiest of these little wrinkles to smooth out, and that's the button position and sequence. So far on the maintenance forms, I've positioned the buttons on the bottom right. If I look at one of these, if I just edit, you'll see that I've got the buttons on the right and I've got cancel first and then save second. And I've got that fairly consistently through the maintenance routines. But on the order, I've got them on the bottom left, and I've got the save button first and then the cancel button as the second. There seems to be some debate as to the optimum position and sequence of buttons, and I'll put a link in the description to a couple of links where I found discussions on this. There's some consensus that the buttons should be positioned in the bottom left of the form, with the primary button also on the left. But having tried some forms with this arrangement, I'm not completely convinced. My preference is to be completely consistent by placing the buttons in the bottom right corner of the form, but with the primary button on the left. My logic for this is that if you tab through a form, the save button will be the first of the buttons that you reach. So with this in mind, I'm going to change the maintenance forms. So let's go back to the code. So let's start with the product one. I'm happy with the position of the buttons. I just want them put in the other way round. So I want the save button to come first. So this is easily done by just cutting that and pasting it in there. I'm going to do the other forms, but I'll save you the pain of watching me do that, and we'll come back when I've finished those. I've made those changes to the product page, the tax page, the supplier page, and the dialog on the order entry. As if I just select one of these rows, edit, I've saved those as well. And the effect now is that if I tab through, if I make any changes, the first button that I reach is the save, and I can save it just by clicking the carriage return key. But we're still left with these on the left hand side, and if I'm going to be completely consistent, these need to be placed on the right. So we'll have a look at that, and that can be achieved if I find it, yes, this is the button section for the buttons on the add edit form. This can be achieved by changing this class here to something different using CSS styles, and to save time I've got some text which I'll just bring in here and I'll get rid of that. So effectively what I'm doing is changing the old, which just had class eFooter, and I've got style equals text align right and width 100%. And that should do that. So let's just give that a quick try. And if I edit an order, they're down on the right with the save as the first button. So that's exactly what we want. Now the next item I'm going to tackle is the number data entry. If I choose to add a new line in here, select a product, the quantity and unit price, on quantity I can simply type in a number and press tab and it'll go to the unit price. But notice I've got 4 decimal places here, and there's something very strange. If I press the right arrow, it goes nowhere, but if I press the left arrow, it goes right to the very beginning. And if I then start typing numbers, or then press the left arrow key again, it goes to the beginning. I don't seem to be able to get to the, let's say I want to change this from 60 to 61. It's very difficult to get there. And I'm not very happy with this at all. So let's have a look at how we can change that. Oh, there is one other. Maybe I should just mention that now. Although the number here is restricted to 1 decimal, I can actually, if I can manage to do it, enter any number of decimals, which it then retains. Again, something I'm not very happy with. So let's have a look at how we can prevent that or handle that better. Now, I originally thought that the answer to having numbers right aligned, I had this enabled RTL equal to true. Now I thought that meant just enable, well, it means enable right to left, but I thought it was going to just right align it. But it doesn't. It means right to left and is intended for languages such as Persian, Arabic, Hebrew, Urdu, where the flow is from right to left and not left to right as in English. So the first step is to remove this from all numeric text boxes. I'm not going to do them all now, but let's just remove it from the quantity and unit price. So that's step 1. If we run the program now, we'll find that the numbers are now left aligned. After some investigation, I found the answer to right aligning them in the Syncfusion documentation, and again I'll put a link in the description. What we need to do is to add a CSS class to the numeric text boxes that we want right aligned, and I'll just copy that into here and same into here, and that it says use a CSS class called eStyle, and we now need to define that. So I'll move down to the style section, and what we want here, and I'm more or less simply copying what I found on the Syncfusion documentation. So we've got enumeric.estyle and econtrol.enumeric text box, and it says text align right. That's what I found in the documentation. I added this padding 5 pixels, and that gives us a small space of right 5 pixels to the right of the numeric text box. If we simply run it now, well, let's just try it and we'll see what effect that has. Let's try editing one. So they're now right aligned, but I'm now getting 3 decimal places, and if I use the left and right key, lo and behold, I can modify the data relatively simply. I don't have any problems with the decimal places jumping around. But you will notice that I can enter more than the number of decimal places that I have shown, and I can enter up to 4 decimal places on unit price, for example. So let's have a look at how we can deal with that. Now, this problem of the numbers kind of relates to SQL. I've got a mismatch between the table definitions for the columns in SQL and what I have in here. In SQL, if I have a look at the PO line definition, you'll see that I've got the product quantity as decimal 9,3. That means 9 digits in total with 3 to the right of the decimal place. And for product unit price, I've got money. In my naivety, I thought money was going to be 2 decimal places, but it turns out it's 4. So back to the code. The next thing I discovered was that we needed to add, let's see, where's unit quantity. We needed to add something in here that defined the number of decimals. So decimals equals 0 will show only 0 decimals, and if I do the same here for unit price and change that to 2 and then run it, we should find that we can't, or it'll only show 0 decimal places or 2 decimal places. So we're restricting it to 0 decimal places for quantity. However, I can still enter more than 1 decimal place, and if I try editing, this is where the problem lies. I can actually enter the decimal places or enter more decimal places than I say I want there, but it will round it, and it will actually save the number that we enter here. So we can end up with some strange maths going on if we aren't careful. So that's yet another step that we need to take to correct this or to restrict it. And the answer to that is to have this attribute here as well. So if I add this, is called validate decimals on entry or on type, and that will prevent the user from typing in more decimal places than we're actually showing or allowing. So let's try that. So now if I try editing, I can tab through and I can't enter any decimals. I'm trying to say 7.5, but it won't have it. If I enter a decimal place and then a number, the decimal place is omitted. Same for the unit price. If I try entering 67.99999, I only get 69.99, and when I tab away from it, it doesn't round it up to 68. So those 3 changes seem to have sorted out the data entry on numbers. So what we want are these four things. We want the format to say whether we want n, which is numbers with commas, 0 decimal places, then define the number of decimal places, then validate the decimals on type to be equal to true, and that controls the number of decimal places that we can enter and the number of decimal places that will be displayed and the format of them. And lastly, this CSS style will right align it. It seems quite a lot of effort just to get numbers right aligned, but that's the way we seem to need to have to do it. Right, onward to the next item, which is the product drop-down list. The next topic I'd like to tackle is the product drop-down list. Currently, if we add or edit a new purchase order line, let's edit one, and let's add a purchase line. If I select product here, I'm given a list of just product codes, and I don't know which of these spanners I might need. And the suggestion from one of the YouTube viewers was it would be nice to have the description in here as well, and he provided a solution for it, and it's in the comments to that particular video, that added the description to the product code. So it showed both the product code and the description. I've taken it a little stage further in that I'm going to separate the drop-down list into two sections, one for code and one for description, and we'll see how this works. Now, I discovered this by looking through the Syncfusion documentation, and although I had to make a few changes before I actually got essentially what I wanted in the end. But let's have a look at the drop-down list. So this is the drop-down list, and what I had to do was to add what's known as a template. And to make things simpler, let me just add it in. And it consists of two sections. First of all, we have this drop-down list template section, and we say what the class is that we're using. And then it's split into a header template and an item template. So the header, the appearance of this is mainly controlled through CSS classes. So the header is split into two columns, one called product code that's going to have a description of code, and one that's got a class of description and is going to have a description of description. And the actual item itself, which we need to give a context name to, and that again is split into two classes, product code and description. Notice that they're the same as for the header, and then we show the product code, product description. So that's how the template works, but we need to add in the CSS for head, product code, description, and item, product code and description. So I'll come down here and make a bit of room for it. And there's quite a lot of this, but basically we've got the head and an item, so it's going to be a table. We're having the 100 full width, and the margins are going to be automatic. It's going to be left aligned. Then for the head, we want the height to be 30 pixels, the font size 15 pixels, and the font weight 600. That'll just give it a little bit of emphasis. The actual product code is going to be a table cell. We're going to vertically align it in the middle and text align it left, and we're going to give it a width of 25%. For the description, it's much the same, except we're giving it a width of 75%. So that means the code's going to have 25% of the width and the description 75% of the width. and I had to play around with these indents to get the head description for product code description aligned just right compared with the columns that the columns of data that followed it. So that should be that's all that's required. So let's save it and give it a test. Right, let's try editing this one again. And if I try adding a new product, now we'll see that the product code and description is shown, and I can easily distinguish which of these particular items with similar looking product codes is the one I want. So that's one more item ticked off the list. The next one was rather alarming. I discovered this by accident, as one always does. And that is that if I try adding a new purchase order, without selecting a supplier, I could save it, which is most certainly not what I want, particularly bearing in mind if I try editing it, I can't even select a supplier. So I've got to find some way of, or we've got to find some way of preventing that. So let's have a look at that. Now, if we look at the drop down for the supplier, we'll see that here's the drop down. We'll see we've got data annotations validator in place, and the bind value is the PO header supplier ID. And what I was surprised by was, although that is a required field on PO header, it didn't seem to be having any effect here. Now, rather than trying to battle with that, I decided the simplest thing was simply to test to make sure that we've got a supplier on the order save. So if we go down to order save, so in here, before we start any of this, I'm just going to add in some code that says, that checks to make sure there's a supplier there, and if there isn't, it throws up a warning and then effectively aborts this section. So where is that? I think it's this. So that's saying if the order add edit object and PO header supplier ID is 0, we're going to open the warning component saying please select a supplier before saving the order. That opens the dialog, and then it returns to this code here with nothing else happening. So one more quick test. If I try adding another order, and without entering a supplier, click Save, I get a warning, please select a supplier before saving the order. So that looks better. Right, back to the code, and we'll tackle the next topic, which is a warning to the user to say that the an order has got no order lines. Perhaps I should have just shown you this before getting this far. Let me just run it again. If I try adding a new order, I'll actually add a supplier this time. If I try saving this, it saves it with no order lines, and that's the situation I want to. I was originally thinking of trying to prevent it, but decided in the end that it's just about possible that somebody might want to save an order and then come back and add the order lines. So rather than preventing it, I decided to issue a warning or a confirmation and ask the supplier to ask the user to confirm that they don't want to add any order lines before saving it. Right. Now this was quite a tortuous piece of coding to find out. What I want to do is to have a modal dialog with two options, one to save the order and the other to cancel the save. So it's different from the warning, where there's just a warning and just an OK button. I want a similar kind of component that offers the user to confirm or cancel. Now we've already got dialogues asking for confirmation for the deletion of products, tax rates, suppliers and order lines. In the case of products, tax rates and suppliers, the record is displayed on the confirmation dialog, and since these are important records, having specific dialogues is justified. But for some circumstances it makes more sense to create and use a generic confirm cancel dialog that we can use in multiple situations in a similar way to our generic warning. I'm indebted to some code from Pragim Technologies, and I'll put a link in the description. And I wouldn't have got this working without their example or his example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by, in the shared section, I'm going to add a new component, a Blazor component, and I'm going to call it confirm razor. So add razor component, and I'm going to call it confirm page. And I'm going to get rid of this, and this is the, place this code in here. So this is just a Syncfusion dialog. It's got a reference, I'm calling it dialog confirm, and is visible. There's a new attribute that I've introduced here, which is allow dragging equals true. That allows the confirmation box to be confirmation dialog to be moved around the screen, and I've added that so that the user can see what is underneath the dialog if it happens to obstruct an important piece of information. And width 500, and it shows the close icon. It consists of some templates, a header template, and I've got some text there which is confirm header message, and the content which is confirm content message. This is very similar to the warning dialog. But then I've got two buttons, one that says confirm, one that says cancel. I've got the confirm as primary, and the on click event is going to be this on confirmation change, and that's going to be set to true, whereas the cancel has got the same confirmation change event, and that's going to be set to false. So down here we've got the declaration of the dialog, a public boolean whether it's visible, and I'm setting that to false, and then two parameters for the header message and header content, and this parameter, this event callback for confirmation changed. Notice that's not on confirmation change, it's a new variable. Then on opening the dialog, it just makes it visible. On closing it, or rather on confirmation change, it will effectively hide the dialog, and it'll do this confirmation change dot invoke sync, and that's going to pass this boolean value, which will be either true or false, back to the calling code. So that's the first part of this bit of coding. Back on the purchase order page, we want to first of all, back on the purchase order razor form, we need to now include the code for that confirmation. So in a similar way to the warning page, we've got this, which says confirm page. I've given it a reference or a name of confirm save order. I've then got this variable for confirm header message and confirm content message, and the confirmation change, what method should be processed on the confirmation change. One thing I did discover is that you can't use the same name here and here. I thought I was being clever to start with having those the same, but no, you can't do it. So having got that, we now need to declare those various bits and pieces, and I think we'll have them underneath the warning page. So that declares the various variables we're using there. And I suspect the next step could be improved, but after a lot of trial and error, this was the tactic I ended up using. I'm going to create a new method called order save process and cut the bulk of the code from order save and paste it into the new method. So let me go down to the bottom of the code. And create that. So that's the just bare basics of order save process. And then what I'm going to do is on order save, I'm going to cut this. Just making sure I've got the right brackets and everything else in there. I'm going to cut that and paste it down here. And what I'm going to do is in the what remains of the order save, I'm going to add the following after the check to ensure that a supplier has been selected. And this code checks to see if the order lines is 0. If it is, it's going to open our new confirm save order dialog with a message of confirm save, and with the content, there are no order lines, please confirm the order should be saved. Otherwise, it's going to go straight to the order save process, and it's going to carry the parameter of true. Then in the order line save, yes, if the save is confirmed, we're going to be processing the normal routine down here. Let's tidy it up a bit. So going back up here to the order save, if the supplier is 0, it issues a warning. If the order lines are 0, it opens the confirmation that should you carry on or not. And if there are order lines, it's going to go to the order save process straight away. The other element of this is that on the confirmation up here, if that is returned true, it goes straight to the order save process. This seems rather complicated, but it does seem to work. So let's just test it. Right, Ivy's Flower Shop hasn't got any order line so far. If I try editing it and I try saving it, I get a message or confirmation saying there are no order lines, please confirm the order should be saved, and I'm going to confirm. So that is now working correctly. There is another area where we can perform exactly the same function. At the moment, when we delete an order line from the purchase order grid, let's see if I can find it. It'll be on the toolbar click, add, delete. Yes, at the moment, if we select delete a purchase order line, it checks that we've selected an order line, and if we have, it awaits the dialog for this particular dialog delete order line show, and that is up here. So it's this bit of code here, which is effectively doing the same thing, but we're kind of effectively duplicating code because we've now got this new confirmation dialog that we ought to be using. So the first step is a bit dramatic, and what we'll do is delete this entirely. And while we're about it, we'll delete the declaration for that. If I can spot it, delete order line. And we can replace that dialog with another confirmation page. I'm going to put it up here, it doesn't really matter. So we drop that in there, and we're calling it confirm deletion. We're giving a header message, we're passing through a content message, and then we're going to confirm delete. So it looks pretty much like a duplication of this order save, but with a different name, different messages, and different delete action or confirmation message. So the next stage is to declare these various things like the confirm delete, and we need to add in this confirm deletion. That's, yes, I had to make these different as I mentioned before. So we need to add those down. So let's declare the confirm page to start with. And let's put it up here. Obviously, we don't need to redeclare these items. Those are just being used as before. Then we'd want to, in the toolbar handler method, we currently have this item here. I'm going to replace all of that with this. So if the text is delete, it checks that we've selected a row, and if not, issues a warning. If there is, it'll open up the confirm deletion confirmation, and we'll await the reply from that. Now, the old method had confirm delete no and confirm delete yes. We can get rid of both of those because we no longer need them, but we do need one for the new confirm delete, and we're passing this boolean delete confirmed, either positive, true or false, and if the delete is confirmed, we just go through the deletion process. Right, let's give that a try. Right, so I'll edit this one. Just check that delete works. So we've now got our standard confirmation deletion text box, dialog box, and notice how I can move it around. I moved it just in case it happened to end up over the item we were wanting to delete. So I'll cancel that. Or maybe I ought to try deleting it. Right, so that's that. So I'll save that and move on to the last item, which is deletion of a purchase order. At the moment, that doesn't do anything. So last item to tackle, and you can guess what's coming. We've now got our confirm delete confirmation page, so we're going to be using that. But it's, as always, it's not quite as easy as one might hope. So let's have a look. This is on the index page, and we want to put a confirm delete box in here. That must be it. And I've called this confirm order delete. Again, we've got confirm message, confirm content message, and the confirmation changed, confirm order archive. So we need to declare these variables. So let's find a space under warning. You'll see here we're beginning to follow a bit of a pattern here. So we've declared all these variables. The next thing is on the toolbar click handler to enter the code for handling the delete. So here we are, and here's an error that I hadn't spotted. So that should say delete, but I'm going to get rid of that and pull in this code. So now I've said if the item text is delete, we're going to check that the user has selected a purchase order and issue a warning if not. Otherwise, we're going to populate the order header. We're going to populate, an order header object which we haven't declared yet, using the selected purchase order ID. Another spelling mistake. And use the PO header get one to retrieve the information for the selected purchase order header. So the next thing is we need to just declare this order header. Let's have it directly under here. So that defines or declares the order header. I think that should now get rid of these. No, it's not doing that because that's an awaitable thing, a awaitable process, and we haven't got an async task here. Right, so that's all good. We've got everything we need there, but what we haven't got is what to do on the confirm order archive. So we need to add a method for that. So let's go down to the bottom. And bring in that. So this is confirm order archive, and it'll be passed a Boolean either true or false. If it's confirmed true, then I'm setting the order header object's PO header is archived to true, and then I'm going to update the PO header using the PO header update service, and then I'm going to repopulate PO header, which is the list of orders, then say status changed. So we'll give that a go, and we should now be able to delete an order. Right, I'll just refresh that. I'll just check that if I don't select one, it tells me to select one. If I do select one, I've got an option to delete it, and it says confirm deletion. Please confirm that this order should be deleted. Perhaps archive would have been better, but it's fine. I'll cancel that, and it doesn't delete it. I'll select it again, confirm deletion, and it's gone. It hasn't actually gone, it's still in the database, but it's now marked as archived, as is archived, and this list excludes archived items. So that's it, I think, for this video. It's been a little bit tedious doing these tiny little jobs. It's probably taken longer than I intended, but I think they needed to be done. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any comments, please leave them in the comments section. I'll always welcome criticism. If you've got any ideas to how this could be improved, that would be great. Some of this code feels to me as if it's going around the houses a bit. I did wonder whether there are better ways of doing this. If anybody's got any suggestions, please let me know. Thank you very much.